All rebels march to the beat of a different drummer. John Riggins marched to a different orchestra en route to enshrinement into the Hall of Fame.
Everybody wonders, why did I get the commissioner to introduce me? Madonna had a headache.
To me, John Riggins was the perfect symbol of the new ball player. Anti-establishment, didn't take crap, didn't care about the authority.
Riggins was a rebel with a personality that was just as outrageous as his hairstyles, and both could change at a moment's notice. From his early days with the New York Jets to his wild years with the Washington Redskins, his off-the-field antics oftentimes overshadowed his contributions as a player. His most infamous moment took place at a Washington political gathering.
He attended a dinner when Vice President Bush, I believe, at that time was speaking. At that time, he was vice president. And he happened to be seated next to Sandra Day O'Connor, our Supreme Court Justice. And John had had a few drinks.
I could just picture John slurring his words and saying, which he did, "Lighten up, Sandy baby." Telling that to the Supreme Court Justice of the United States, "Lighten up, Sandy baby." Now, maybe she lightened up. This might have changed Sandra Day O'Connor's life for all I know.
This outburst should not have surprised anyone. Long before this incident, Riggins made headlines with his bruising style of running and his discontent with the Redskins' refusal to renegotiate his contract. This prompted him to walk out of training camp in 1980, and 6 weeks later, he announced his retirement. Head coach Joe Gibbs flew to Kansas to try and talk Riggins into rejoining the team.
One day I just got on a plane, flew to Lawrence, Kansas. I go out down this dirt road, pull up back of this farmhouse, and I knocked on the door, and right away I knew I had a chance to get him back, because Mary Lou, his wife, was her hair's in rollers. She answers the door, and the kids are running through the house yelling and screaming, and she told me she wanted to come back.
All of a sudden, John comes walking in, goes to the refrigerator, grabs a beer, sits down, and sits across the table to Joe Gibbs, and he looks at Joe Gibbs, and he says, "Look, you need me a hell of a lot more than I need you. Now, why did you come here?"
He's a kook. Nobody would say that. I says, what am I going to do? And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, what could I do? What could I what? I know what I'll do. I'll get him back and trade him. So I finish the sales pitch, get in my car, fly back to Washington. 2 days later, he calls me, and he goes, "Joe, I made up my mind I'm going to play next year." And I went, yes, this is perfect. I get him back. I trade him for a first. I get rid of an egomaniac. This is perfect. And he said, "There's only one thing I won't put in my contract." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "A no trade clause."
A year later, he returned proclaiming, "I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back." And on Riggins' sturdy back, he carried the Redskins to an NFC title, then produced one of the most unforgettable plays in Super Bowl history. Trailing 17-13, the Diesel got the call on 4th and 1.
There's the snap, hand to Riggins, good hole, he's got the first down, the 40, he's gone! The 35, the 30, the 20, he's gone! Touchdown, Washington Redskins!
After the game, Riggins declared, "Ron Reagan may be president, but tonight, I'm the king." The Super Bowl run remains his signature play, but it was his final appearance in Washington that left an indelible impression in the minds of Redskins fans.
The most poignant story that I can tell about John Riggins has to do with our names being hung at RFK Stadium. John's nowhere to be found. We have no idea where John is. Time's running down, and then all of a sudden, the crowd starts to clap a little bit. They start to yell, and then all of a sudden, they burst out in this roar. Here comes John Riggins out of the Redskin locker room in full battle regalia. I get goosebumps just reliving the story. The place is going nuts. They're screaming and yelling and cheering. Johnny comes up and stands next to me. Here I am in my suit. There he is in his uniform, looking as great as ever. And I looked at him, and I said, "John, why? Why?" And he looked me in the eye and he said, "Joe, I had to hear it one more time." And I thought, if that doesn't tell you about John Riggins, then nothing does.